There was a time when money meant something, a time when every coin held the weight of real value, when gold, not governments, decided what was worth what. But then, something changed. In the shadows of wars, crises, and backroom deals, a silent revolution took place, not fought with guns or armies, but with paper, printing presses, and promises. And that's how gold, the ancient ruler of global wealth, lost its throne, and paper claimed the crown. But who made this decision? Why did the world's most powerful nations abandon the one thing that gave their money meaning? And what hidden system replaced it, one that now controls every economy on Earth? Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the greatest monetary illusion in history. When gold was God for thousands of years, gold wasn't just a metal, it was civilization's backbone. Egyptians called it the flesh of the gods. The Greeks saw it as the ultimate measure of wealth, and the Romans built an empire upon it. Gold was rare, incorruptible, and eternal. Didn't rust, didn't rot, and couldn't be faked. It was the perfect store of value, the world's universal trust mechanism. Even as centuries passed, empires fell, and currencies changed, gold remained the one constant. Every major economy, from the British Empire to Imperial China, tied their money to it. You couldn't just print more gold, and that was the point. Gold limited power. It restrained kings, governments, and bankers from creating wealth out of thin air, till one day they found a way around it. The rise of paper promises in the late 1600s. Merchants in Europe faced a problem. Gold was heavy. Carrying it across cities, even countries, was risky and slow. So, they came up with a solution. Instead of moving gold itself, they started issuing receipts, paper notes that represented gold stored in a bank. Each note promised, "The bearer of this paper may redeem it for real gold upon demand." It was simple, convenient, and revolutionary. The first modern banks, like the Bank of England, were born from this idea. And at first it worked beautifully. People trusted the paper because it was backed by gold. But then the temptation arrived. If you could print paper representing gold, why not print a little extra? After all, not everyone would demand their gold back at once, right? This was the birth of fractional reserve banking, the quiet trick that allowed banks to lend more money than they actually had. Gold was still there, somewhere. But now, paper had entered the game. The age of gold standards and empires. By the 1800s, the world ran on gold. The gold standard became the foundation of global finance. 1 ounce of gold had a fixed price, and every major currency was pegged to it. Trade between nations was predictable. Economies were stable. The British pound, known as good as gold, dominated the world economy. Every empire from France to Japan followed suit. But there was one hidden cost: gold's limitation. You couldn't create prosperity faster than you could dig it out of the ground. And that frustrated governments and bankers alike. Then came World War I to fund the conflict. Nations printed far more money than their gold reserves could support. And when the war ended, they tried to go back to gold, but it was too late. The paper promises had multiplied. The trust had cracked. And the old king, gold, began to lose control of his empire. The breaking point: Bretton Woods and the dollar's coronation. By the end of World War II, much of the world was in ruins. But one nation stood tall, rich in resources, technology, and, most importantly, gold. The United States held over 2/3 of the world's gold reserves. In 1944, leaders from 44 countries gathered in a quiet resort in New Hampshire to rewrite the global financial system. The result was known as the Bretton Woods Agreement. Under this new system, the US dollar became the world's reserve currency. Every other nation would peg its money to the dollar, and the dollar itself would be backed by gold at $35 per ounce. In short, gold still ruled, but now through a middleman, the American dollar. The world's wealth flowed through Washington, D.C., and for a while it worked. But behind closed doors, the same old temptation returned. Nixon's shock and the death of gold by the 1960s. The U.S. was spending far beyond its means, financing wars, social programs, and foreign aid with freshly printed dollars. But foreign nations, especially France, began to notice. They realized the U.S. was printing more paper than it had gold to back it. So they started calling America's bluff. Countries demanded to exchange their dollars for real gold. Gold reserves began to vanish from Fort Knox. The illusion was crumbling. And then, on August 15, 1971, President Richard Nixon went on live television and made an announcement that would change the world forever. I have directed Secretary Connolly to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold. Temporarily. That temporary suspension has now lasted over 50 years. With one speech, Nixon ended the gold standard. The dollar was no longer backed by gold, only by trust. Gold had lost its throne, and paper finally claimed the crown. The fallout. Fiat money and financial alchemy. Once gold was out of the picture, the world entered a new financial era, the Fiat age. Fiat from the Latin fiat lux, meaning, let there be light. In modern terms it means, let there be money. Because now money existed by decree, was valuable, not because it represented gold, but because governments said so. Central banks could print as much as they wanted, credit expanded, debt exploded. Between 1971 and today, global debt has grown more than 400 times. And every solution to a crisis, from 2008 to 2020, has been the same. Print more paper. But there's a dark side to this magic trick. When you print wealth from nothing, you're not creating prosperity, you're rearranging it. Those closest to the source, banks, corporations, and governments, get the new money first. Everyone else pays the price through inflation, rising costs, and eroded savings. The modern system doesn't reward hard work or innovation, it rewards debt. Because in a world where money is born from loans, the more we borrow, the richer the system becomes. It's a cycle that can't last forever. The illusion exposed, modern parallels every empire that abandoned real value has faced the same fate. Rome diluted its silver coins and fell. France printed the assignats during the Revolution and collapsed in hyperinflation. Germany in the 1920s, Zimbabwe in the 2000s, Argentina today. Each believed their paper was different, each was wrong. And now, the modern world stands on that same precipice. The global debt is over $315 trillion, more than triple the world's total GDP. The US alone was over $35 trillion, and rising by the second. Central banks have printed so much money that 90% of all US dollars in existence were created after 2008. We no longer ask how much gold backs our currency. We ask, how much debt can we survive before it breaks? And yet somehow the illusion continues. The markets rise, the economy grows. But beneath it all, the foundation trembles. The new claimants to the throne in times of financial decay, people search for new anchors of trust. Today, that anchor is being contested again between two forces, decentralization and control. On one side, digital currencies like Bitcoin promise a return to scarcity, a digital gold beyond the reach of governments. On the other, central banks are pushing CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, programmable money that gives them even greater power to monitor and manipulate transactions. The next monetary revolution is already underway. And once again, the question is the same. Who controls the crown? Lessons from the fall of gold. When gold lost its throne, humanity gained something powerful, but dangerous. Unlimited money. It gave us growth, technology, globalization. And yet, it also gave us inequality, debt slavery, and endless economic bubbles. So what can we learn from history's greatest financial dethroning? Takeaways and closing reflection. Takeaway number 1. Trust is the real currency. Gold's power wasn't in its shine, it was in the trust it commanded. When trust dies, no paper can save the system. Takeaway number 2. Every monetary empire ends in debasement. When rulers discover they can print wealth, they always do, until the people no longer believe in the illusion. Takeaway number 3. The future will choose its own king. Whether it's gold, digital code, something we haven't invented yet, money will always reflect what society values most, control or freedom. The story of money isn't about metal or paper, it's about power. And every time we trade our freedom for financial comfort, we hand that power willingly to whoever holds the printing press. Because in the end, gold didn't lose its throne. We gave it away. If you found this story eye-opening, don't let it end here. Share it, question it, and start looking at your money not as wealth, but as a belief system. Because the next time a financial crisis hits, you'll want to know who really wears the crown.